Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where it turns out the original Gauntlet never made it to our Wonder Machine. And so it was up to the Amiga devs to fill that hole with their own take on the multi-directional top-down run-and-shoot genre. And while I could fill this with shoot-em-up construction kit games, let's avoid them and instead check out the commercial Amiga-only or first games, as we look at the Amiga's answer to Gauntlet. The Chaos Engine is what I'd say is the second most famous example. And developed by the Bitmap brothers, it was released in 1993, with an updated AGA and CD32 versions coming out a year later. It was also released for the SNES and Mega Drive, and in the US it got renamed Soldier of Fortune, which really doesn't sound anywhere near as good as the Chaos Engine. In-game we have 6 characters to choose from, as their speed, health, weapons and specials are all different. And you'll have to select not just one, but 2 characters, as there'll always be 2 of them on screen at once. So that means you either have to play with a friend or rely on the AI, which isn't actually the worst, but it can be a bit of a pain. And this shows off all the Gauntlet-like gameplay. We have lots of monsters to shoot at, you have to find keys to unlock areas. What you'll also find is as you play there's an overall objective, and that is to take down the towers, which there'll be a set amount on each level. But trying to find them won't be straightforward, as the map will change as you trigger points or collect keys. Ramps might form, bridges might cross water. Well, as close as water as we get. I wouldn't want to swim in that. The levels are also quite large, so expect to take some time in each of them. And they'll also be full of things that want to shoot you. And unless you're very good, they will do just that, as this isn't the easiest game. But it does give you a few things to help out, but not right away, because you can find money on the ground, and this allows you to upgrade yourself as well as the other player, with intelligence being one of those upgrade stats. This was a big game on the Amiga, and for very good reason, and whether you play the original or the AGA version, you are in for a real treat.
Special activity. Player saved.
The second title is Galactic Warrior Rats. Developed by Mikev and released in 1992 by Summit, and for a game that has rats proudly on the box art, in the manual, and in the name, what you get to see when you play is a rolling ball. They should have called this the Galactic Warrior Hamsters. Jokes aside, this is actually quite cool, as before you head out, you get to upgrade your ball. This can mean adding 2 different weapons, buying some orbits, which are these things that will float around you and add additional firepower, buying ammo, coolant, which I think is this game's equivalent of health, as well as a few other things. Now you might also have noticed there's 3 names on the board, and these are the 3 rats that you can play as, which pretty much makes up the 3 lives of the game. So when you lose one of them, you have to move on to the next. To really show this game off, I'm cheating my ass off, as like most of the games on this list, it's hard, and it's not particularly the fairest game of the lot either, because it's much harder for you to line up shots to take out the enemies than what they have to do to hit you, as they can easily rotate round or fire homing missiles. Your goal is to take out the power units in each level, And to do this, you'll need to find these things that look like spinning cards. And with one of those in hand, you can then go to Computer Terminal, which will bring up a handy little map that will show you what's just been unlocked, so you can then go roll over and collect the energy to destroy it. You can also use those computer terminals to upgrade or fix your craft on the go, so you don't have to keep going back to the beginning. And this is all done through the money that most of the baddies will drop when taken out. And you don't have to worry about running out of targets, there will be plenty of them for you to shoot at, and there's even a few machines that will keep spawning more. This is the game that has rats with ratitude, or at least as the manual says. So it's not too bad for a budget price game, really. Moving away from rolling balls, we have Cytron. A game by Lunatic and published by Psygnosis in 1992. And even before we see their logo, we can tell they published it, with its fancy intro and the general level of polish. The game itself has a very Amiga look about it, in both the level and the tank itself, Cytron, which you will move around, shooting at anything that shows up and picking up the random items. One thing that we haven't touched on so far has been the controls of these games, as for the most part they are a single button joystick game, so you shoot in the direction that you move, typically by tapping or holding the fire button, and by default this is the same for this game. But it has a number of other modes, like auto shooting while moving, which includes being able to hold the fire button to be able to hold a direction to shoot in. There's a twin joystick setup, allowing you to move and shoot in any direction you want with two joysticks. Or how about using the mouse, where you aim and move towards the marker, with each of the mouse buttons deciding on what you'll do. There's even an extreme version of this that will actually support two mice. Again, you'll have one mouse for moving around and the other for shooting. So they really have put a lot of thought into this. And that's before we even get to this game's party piece, as hitting the spacebar will split the tank into Cyt and Ron, which results in getting two smaller tanks that can fit into smaller spaces that Cytron combined couldn't, and each of them also has its own weapon. And if you need to, you can switch between either of them by hitting the spacebar again, or you can rejoin back together if they happen to be next to each other. The goal is to save a minimum number of humans from the robots that have run amok, and then make it to the exit. But there's a countdown timer to a self-destruct that you'll have to race against, although you can use one of the terminals to reset the timer. But as soon as an enemy spots you, it will start up all over again. You can also use those terminals to switch out your weapons, check your ammo and your energy for both machines. It's an interesting game and one that put quite a lot of thought into its controls, obviously, and in places into the gameplay as well. Universal Warrior rocks up next. Which was made by Zeppelin in 1993. This is another game with a robot as the playable character. And this one has some nice physics. The firing pushes us back, and when there's a slope on the ground it also affects how we move. You might also notice some arrows on the ground, which can massively speed up our robo-pal. And after some basic gameplay of finding keys to open doors, it shouldn't be difficult to find your way to the literal goal. Which results in some interesting music. I've no idea how you get the cool bonus, but the cash aspect of the game comes up now, as this screen hides more than you might expect, as you can interact with a number of different companies. This allows you to place bets on your battles, as it seems we're in some futuristic BattleBot entertainment system or something. It's not really explained very well, as it's, well, a budget title. But you will want to visit the other shops that will give you access to some of the other weapons. Or possibly drive units, comms, force fields, and various other items. Now these range in weights and abilities, so you might have to pick your parts very carefully, as if you're too heavy you might not be able to make it up some of those hills. There's also a black market, where you can get some of the larger weapons or some cheaper tech. But there's also a good chance that it might go boom. So not that far off my local car boot sales then. And when you finish buying your parts and fitting them and fixing up your bot, you can go off to the next level, where the first thing you have to do is fill out an insurance form. Way to keep the excitement going, guys. And the next level shows that this isn't just a simple run and gun game, as you have to move some blocks around to solve a very simple puzzle. So overall, it's quite a cool game. The moving and the shooting works well enough, even if it can be a bit fiddly to get through some of those gaps. And having to deal with the various stores really do help break things up quite nicely. The fifth game is Spherical Worlds. Which was developed by Formatted and published by Neo. This came out in 1996, so quite a late game for the machine. And this has a very fancy intro sequence. And you are this little ball that goes around shooting everything in your path. Which is about what we expect for these type of games. Which has a very maze-like feel to it, but one with some very odd physics that tends to change as you move around. I think it's when you're in some of these areas that are open to space, then you gain some extra momentum, but it doesn't seem to be 100% the case. Either way, you'll have to be very careful as you roll around in this first level, as it's very easy to fall off the edges, or even find a square that will break and let you fall out of the level. The things you come across are quite simple and go down with just a few shots of your autocannon, that's throwing around a lot of bullets, and the only thing you really need to be worried about at this point is overheating it. But apart from those, this is a pretty simple level that will help you get to grips with the game, and you should very quickly find the exit. The second level isn't too far away from the first, but we do start to see these little robots that are changing the tiles. I think they're fixing up the craft that we crashed into during the opening video, which is a lovely little touch. This level also introduces keys, and you can have a number of different ones as well. And each one has their own numerical value, which is indicated on the HUD, as well as the doors that actually need them. So this feels very much like a game that we'll be looking at very soon. The final thing in this level is that it also includes cash, which is in the form of these little coloured tiles, and these are used when you finish a level and you get to go to the shop, which is very similar to the mighty Xenon 2, where you can upgrade your weapons or buy more homing rockets, which have a very cool effect going on. The third level really took me by surprise, as it's an into the screen avoid 'em up. You can't shoot here, so I can't really call it a shoot 'em up, which has a very familiar look and feel to it. Yeah, I think they played Super Stardust. And your goal is to avoid the pipes while collecting the orange balls, which I didn't really realise was the goal at first. And then it's back on to rolling around in your ball. It's an odd little game from a time where the Amiga wasn't doing its best, and you can tell this by the fact that none of the magazines reviewed this game. There were previews for it, but as far as I'm aware, none of them got the final game before they all closed, which is a bit of a shame really. The last game we'll be looking at is also the most famous on the Amiga. It's Alien Breed. Which in its Gauntlet inspired versions we have 4 separate games. There's the original Alien Breed, the updated Alien Breed Special Edition 92, Alien Breed 2, and the Tower Assault. Talking about each one in detail would be a whole video in itself, but I think we can take a quick look at each of them and look at how they improved on each other. Alien Breed and the 92 Special Edition are obviously quite closely related, with the 92 edition doubling the number of levels and fixing up a few things that gamers and reviewers had complained about. And this is very clearly based on aliens, with us having to run around and shoot anything that moves. The level goals vary as we go. It might just be make it to the exit, or you could have to destroy a reactor and then leg it to the exit before it explodes. Lots of things explode in this game. And you do have some help as there's lots of pickups. These include keys, as pretty much every single door is locked, as well as money and ammo, which is very limited. The cash can be spent at terminals, and you can get better guns and more keys if you run out, as that is a very real possibility, as there's pretty much more locked doors than keys, and you won't always know where it is you need to go. Alien Breed 2, The Horror continued where the Special Edition left off, as it has more levels, more aliens and more heroes for you to pick from, as there's now 2 humans and 2 aliens, each with their own sprite work and stats. The first level tends to kick most players the first time they'll try the game, as it's a bit of a maze, and there's lots of things that will try and kill you. But it's pretty much setting the scene for the rest of the game, as it never lets up. But if you do manage to make it to the next level, you'll finally get to see the aliens that this series is most known for, because suddenly there'll be lots and lots of them, and some will even shoot back at you. They have learnt a few tricks in the intervening years. The AGA version looks amazing, and it's even better if you can get a second player to help out, as you'll be very quickly overrun otherwise.
Player 1, construction sequence initiated.
By the third game, Alien Breed Tower Assault, things really needed to be shaken up, and their solution for it was to make the game non-linear, as levels now have multiple exits, and you can work your way through the 50 odd maps in a number of different ways. They also updated the controls, so you now have the option of shooting forward while moving backwards. They called this the retreat mode, which is very handy as the number of aliens have also increased again, and there's now lots of little ones that will try and nip at your heels. The CD32 version also included some cutscenes, with a mix of CG and live action, and it's all very cheesy. And just when you think you've seen it all, they decide to take away your sight, as there's now the dark levels. As we've seen, this is a wonderful series, and one that I think everyone should go out and try, if you've got someone to play with, that is, or otherwise you might be in for quite a hard time.
Hurry, alarm systems enabled.
And before we finish the episode, I have one last game I want to show off. Alien Bash 2. A PD game that came free with Amiga format. And you might just think I'm showing you the Chaos Engine again, but no, this is its very own game. There are 8 levels, and they all use this tileset, so expect to see a lot of forests. But they do have some nice animated touches, not just on the main character, or those pig monsters, but also the environment. The gameplay is relatively straightforward. Shoot the monsters, destroy the holes they come out of, and keep pushing forward, all while collecting points, cash and ammo for the other guns. Is it just me, or are some of those sound effects from other Bitmap Brothers games? I swear I can hear gods. And while you run around the game, you will find humans to rescue. And then eventually you'll have to take out a bit of a boss, which is obviously made harder due to the relatively standard control system. But after that it's a quick pop to the shops and then on to fight more monsters. It's a simple but fun little game. And with that, we're at the end of this gauntlet of games. Did I miss out any obvious ones, or did you have a favourite? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, I was the Goldfish. That was Goldfish Needs Food. And this was Goldfish on Games. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed looking at these Amiga takes on Gauntlet, then please consider hitting the buttons below, as they will help you know about new videos. Or you can follow me on Twitter or join the Discord. There'll be links in the pinned comment. So I hope to see you there or on the next video.